Well, the sun may be glorious and very clear across the northern half of the British Isles and indeed the west, but not everywhere is seeing the sunshine. Thanks for clicking on to Vogan's European Outlook for Wednesday, the 31st of May, the final day of meteorological spring. We are about to step into summer 2023. This is the visible satellite captured from this afternoon across the British Isles. Almost clear blue skies across Ireland, Northern Ireland, and indeed the majority of Scotland away from the north coast, and indeed parts of Angus, Fife, and into the borders region. Further south, there is a lot more in the way of cloud cover, that easterly wind bringing that marine influence into many parts of England and Wales, but of course, northwestern areas of England and western, north, west, and south Wales is in the sunshine. Some of that cloud trying to make it to the west coast and the central portion of the Welsh coast, the Irish Sea, of course, and indeed the southern half of England also in the sunshine. And temperatures are reflective of this marine layer, so to speak. As you can see here off meteosail.com, you can see here that we've got temperatures pegged back at 10 Celsius in Inverbervie. Temperatures only clinging to 11, 12 Celsius all the way down that Lincolnshire coast, really stretching from Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, and down into the Cambridgeshire, Norfolk, Suffolk area. And of course, in that sunshine, temperatures are responding, but it's not overly warm if you notice that. We are getting quite the penetration of that easterly wind, more so than I expected. I expected to see temperatures a lot warmer, especially that western central belt around the greater Glasgow area. Remember, even the BBC and the Met Office were forecasting temperatures of 25, 26 in Glasgow. They're only achieving 20, 21 Celsius. And I think we're getting a lot more influence of that northeasterly wind as expected, compared to what was expected, of course. But look at this here, 11, 12 Celsius all the way into the Midlands. A very, very chilly end to spring in areas that you would typically expect to see less influence of that easterly wind off the North Sea. And even the far western areas, southwest England, West Wales, northwestern England, where the sun is shining, temperatures are not that warm really. And if I'm being completely honest, that has surprised me. I expected to see warmer temperatures than what we are seeing this afternoon. So yeah, very interesting stuff. We did manage to crack the 25 Celsius mark for the first time in 2023 for the UK. Porthmadog on the west coast of Wales recorded 25.1 Celsius yesterday. We got close in a few spots, 24.5 at Tyndrum in Stirlingshire, 24.5 at Castlederg in County Fermanagh was the highest temperatures yesterday. And indeed, Ireland got very close as well, with Shannon Airport barely missing that 25-degree mark by 24.9 Celsius recorded. So yesterday, by far the warmest day of the week for the British Isles. And like I say, cooler than I expected. So, looking at the longer range, of course, the June forecast will be released on the website just after the video has been published this afternoon. But this is off the CFSV2 for week 1. So this is the upcoming 7-day period. So this takes actually the 30th of May through the 6th of June. And you can see here that the centre of the high, as has been the case throughout May really, is centred just to the west of the UK here. So that means that we're not drawing anything hot from a south or southeasterly direction. The temperatures will be subdued, so to speak, with the position of this high. The high itself is not overly warm, but we are seeing some warming taking place within that air mass itself, kind of homegrown warming, if you will. And we're seeing that kind of limitation in terms of the level of warmth that we see at the surface, with relatively fresh conditions at 850. even that strong incoming solar radiation, we're not seeing the temperatures off to the races. We're seeing the temperatures kind of, relatively pegged back, mid 20s at very best, as we've seen, of course, in the last day or so here. And of course, that kind of strong northeasterly wind is having much more westward progress across the UK than expected as well. So this is the upcoming 7 days of the CFSV2. You can see here for week 2, that high is kind of shifted a little bit further west here. So therefore, we have to then open the door to the potential slightly cooler, fresh air coming in from the northwest direction here. So that is not an overly warm period, June 6th through the 13th of June. We've got this negative here to the west of Iberia, keeping things fairly unsettled across Spain, Portugal, southern France. But what we need to watch for is, with this slight retrogression of the high more out towards Greenland, we have to then allow the possibility of more influence of this area of low pressure to the west, lifting northwards up towards southern Ireland and the British Isles here for this period here. Then as we progress into week 3, which is the period 13th through the 20th of June, notice here that the high shifts further east, but you notice the core of the high remains to the north of Europe. We've got this kind of slight negative here, or neutral height field, so to speak, across southwestern areas. That always allows the more possibility of lower pressure, a slight reduction in terms of the temperature, prevent the warming potential, and also the increase of unsettled conditions. So showers, thunderstorms, flash flooding, still an ongoing threat across southwestern areas with this setup. I would expect, if this was to happen, that we would start to see warmer conditions continuing to stay dry the further north you go over the UK. Always that threat increasing across southern Ireland, Wales, and England for the increase in rainfall, shower activity, thunderstorms, possibly even an increase in a kind of flood threat, so to speak, as well. Then as we progress towards the second half of the month and into the period June 20th, 27th, you can see here that the centre of the high of the CFSV2 is more centred to the north of the UK. So therefore, you have to allow the possibility of lower pressure trying to come up from the south. And this has been the forecast, even my summer forecast that was released what was it, a week ago, back on Monday. I did have this kind of idea that the northern half of Europe would be warmest and driest, cooler and more unsettled the further south you go over the continent, and even over the UK and Ireland as well. So let's go back to week 1. Let's have a look at the precipitation forecast of the CFSV2. And you can see here that we've got very, very dry conditions compared to average across the north, wetter across the south. No surprise here. Week 2, still drier than average conditions north, wetter than average across the south. But you notice here that the wetter than average, the greens are starting to migrate a little bit further north with that shift of high pressure out towards the west and northwest. Week 3, period 13th through the 20th, you can see here continuation of dry, so warmer and drier looks to be the theme through the course of June, I think. So I think this could be somewhat of a front-loaded summer. Best conditions, warmest potential during the month of June. In terms of sustained warm, dry conditions, that's what I mean. Of course, like I've said already, July, I think we could start to see the high be replaced by an area of low pressure. That then may allow hotter conditions to develop across more southern areas, southwestern areas, Iberia, for example, starting to get into some heat wave conditions as well. And with low pressure over or near the UK, that then opens the possibility of having warmer conditions lifting up from the north, from the south, and we could see temperatures rise into the upper 20s, low 30s during the month of July, and then I think really August. Even though we could have a few warm days here and there, possibly even some hot days, I think we're going to start to turn the pattern around as we progress during July and August. I think we're going to reverse the pattern and turn much more unsettled. That is my thinking anyway. That has been the summer forecast all along. and we'll wait and see what happens. But certainly it's interesting to see what's happening for the month of June, that's for sure, across the continent here. You can see here that we're losing those yellows, those dark yellows at that, across particularly England, Wales and Ireland. I think we're going to start to see lower pressure lifted north as we progress through the month of June. So we'll watch this space and see what happens. Finally, looking at the temperature here, again, back to week 1, we've got, of course, that area of high pressure positioned to the west-northwest of the UK. Therefore, we're getting that clockwise wind around that area of high pressure, keeping things really quite cool across the bulk of England and Wales, as you can see here. This is the first period. This is almost the first full week of June, and it's firmly below average across England and Wales, warmer than average, whereas closer to the high over the western side of Scotland, as you can see here. Skipping on to week 2 of the model, and you can see here still below average. That's interesting, isn't it? That is very interesting. We're kind of trimming back that warmer than average across Scotland as well, with that high backing a little bit further west here. Week 3, that's when we start to see the turnaround taking place, with that high possibly shifting more towards Scandinavia. That may set the tone for something a little bit warmer coming in from a kind of east-southeasterly direction as well. So we're going to start to warm the continent up as we progress through the month of June. Then it looks as if we warm things up even further. This is according to the CFSV2, folks. This isn't, of course, a definitive possibility. We are going to see possible changes, fluctuations here and there. So we'll have to watch this space as we go forward. Now, the Met Office has indeed issued a bit of a summer forecast, and I want to try and show you what they're saying here, because this is quite interesting. I'll close the video with this one, if I can try and find that. If you look at the deep dive from yesterday, it was very, very interesting stuff. Actually, I quite enjoyed the deep dive. I always do enjoy the deep dive, actually, because there was a lot of tremendous detail put into that with regards to what the temperatures or what they're thinking in terms of the overall summer forecast. I'm not going to manage to find it. Unfortunately, it looks as if I'm not going to, which is rather disappointing. But I'll tell you what, I will put that into the June forecast. The wee graphic, it basically shows very low probability. This is based on sea surface temperatures, the El Nino, climate change factored in as well. Whether you believe that or not, it's entirely up to you. But they're saying that there's a 45% chance of seeing a hot summer, a 50% chance of seeing either a kind of near average summer, and then a very, very low possibility of having a cool summer. And of course, I have made mention here on this channel that I do think we will lean warmer than average this year, but it's not clear cut. We could have a 2015 style summer, heat surges, cool days, unusual cool days, rainy days, flash flood events is possible as well. A very, very back and forward type summer, I think, is on the way here for the UK as well as Ireland and other parts of Europe as well. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe as always, of course. And I'll hopefully be back again tomorrow with more. And do check out the June forecast. It will be released within the hour. Bye for now.